Conchetta, Bria, that ballroom is right behind me. This is where people were sent screaming, pouring into the streets, running for their lives when that 72-year-old gunman decided to shoot and kill 10 people, wounding 10 others. And it didn't stop here. In a town called Alhambra, not too far from here, he decided to have another shooting. Back out here live, I do urge you to try to understand, if you can, and put yourself in the shoes of the victims and their families. 10 people were shot and killed. Another 10 were wounded. That's 20 people impacted. That does not include their families who are now planning memorial services this week, or these other 10 people who were wounded now fighting for their lives this morning. So again, I do hope that you think about this community this morning as they continue to heal. Well, good morning. Distracted driving is absolutely one of the largest causes of accidents on the roadway. That's according to AAA. And many people are guilty of driving while doing something else, but the consequences of not paying attention can be deadly. And get this, AAA says that just 5 seconds of looking down to read an email is like driving blindfolded down an entire length of a football field. So next time that you get in the car, make sure that you are focused on the road. No text or email is worth a life. Kings fans were on the edge of their seat last night watching the big game against the Warriors. Unfortunately, 1 point kept the Kings from lighting the beam last night. It all happened really quickly at the end of the game. Unfortunately, Kings forward Harrison Barnes could not put that three in the basket, making the Kings lose the game at the end of the night. But Kings fans say they are still rallying around the Beam team and say Wednesday will be for the Kings. Here at Doco, the energy will be electric, but if you want a ticket, it's going to cost you $250 for the nosebleed, $600 for the bull seat. If you want the best seat in the house on the floor, $5,000. Yeah, Conchetta, you can see that smoke, you can smell that smoke. It is so heavy. You can see it throughout the treetops. Honestly, when you look behind me, you can't even see what's below me because that smoke is so thick. And come around with me this way because the big story this morning is the large amount of police presence here. Take a look at the grocery store. You can see the Placer County Sheriff. Good morning. Across the town of Uvalde, there are several memorials honoring the 21 lives lost 2 weeks ago today. From when you first come into town, there's 21 white crosses to the massive display at the plaza. More questions than answers came out of the press conference today. The superintendent did address where Robb Elementary School students will attend school come fall, but failed to answer any questions regarding the district's response the day of the mass shooting. Yeah, while the electrifier continues to burn this morning, you can see and smell the smoke from the Italian picnic grounds. This is where people are being asked to evacuate. Deputies throughout the night were knocking on doors, telling people they needed to leave their homes. And here at the evacuation center is where I met Paul Keaton. He is the Red Cross shelter manager. And Paul, tell me about the resources you have here for those who are in need. Mass and the California National Guard has been here for at least 5 days. You can see their vehicles behind me, and come around this way. You can still see that 6-foot fence wrapped around the Capitol. And then to my right over here, the National Guardmen protecting every inch of Sacramento. That protest is happening right now. Over a dozen parents and students are here protesting, demanding that 5 days a week in-person learning starts immediately now. But dozens of parents and students, like you said, were here at the district building, and this is what they left behind. Their signs taped to the walls and the doors of the district building, pleading and demanding that they reopen schools 5 days a week for in-person learning. That's right, Kurt. Here in Chester, it's a ghost town, not just because most of the population has evacuated, but coming into Chester, you see a gray, ghostly screen of smoke leading you into town. And fire crews tell me they don't know when people will be able to return to their homes. With 3 cats, 2 dogs, a turtle, and several birds, pet supply owner Michelle Watkins packed up her family and evacuated Chester. She is now staying in a trailer at an evacuation center in Susanville.
The cats are living in a bathroom in the trailer because it's not our trailer, and they're confined with their cat box and their food and water. The dogs sleep inside with us. The birds and the tortoise all sleep in our car at night. There's no place inside for them.
Watkins says she is worried about her animals in the hot temperatures, and the smoke is making air quality a concern.
I check it every day when I check the temperature. We can put them inside and get them contained. I've had people offer to foster.
Thunderstorms overnight came with high winds, creating an extreme fire event for fire crews. Plumas County announcing they are counseling repopulation for Chester, Lake Almanor West, and Prattville.
We did have 2 new starts last night They got on them very fast. They're in the process of putting a black line around both of them.
Ground access also continues to be a challenge, with burned trees falling onto roads, blocking entries into areas firefighters need to reach. And thick smoke is making it difficult for crews to fight the fire from above.
Yesterday, I believe they dropped about 35,000 gallons of water. So they were working a very active portion of the fire, but when the smoke rolls in, our aircraft can't fly because they can't see the ground.
CAL FIRE says another wind event is expected as soon as Sunday, and they're keeping their eyes close on the forecast and preparing for it right now. Kurt. Books, activities, and representation. I love to learn. That's what brought 6-year-old Alea Williams to the underground bookstore in Sacramento's historic black neighborhood, Oak Park. She read me her favorite book by Deneen Milner.
Daddy will be there with you in spirit, singing along with you.
What brings Alea the most joy when reading is seeing characters who look like her own family.
It reminds me when me and my dad used to always get us hugs, and we always spend time together. The trains on railroads.
And she also showed me where she saw reflections of herself. Okay, which one do you think looks most like you?
This one.
Why is that?
Because I'm black like her.
Yeah, look like us, huh? Alea sees herself in these stories and dreams of her own possibilities.
I pushed myself in the book, and my wish was to be a teacher.
From one page to another, author and activist Sonia Lewis finished writing her first children's book. She hopes to add more representation of people of color in literature for kids like Alea. Lewis grew up in the Bay Area and moved to Sacramento in 1985.
When we arrived in the Meadowview community. I attended Luther Burbank High School.
When Lewis went off to college, she said she vowed to never come back to Sacramento because of the disparities she witnessed growing up, such as young black women being involved in gangs, drugs, or were teen moms.
And it took me several years being away from Sacramento to realize my community needs me and my voice is representative of this community.
Representation that Lewis says is important in all spaces for young black children, which led her to write Monsters and Aliens.
Imagine a world where young people don't have to heal from their childhood. And so what is that voice you wish they heard? What is that thing that you experienced that you wish you could have spoke, right? But you were scared to. And so that's Monsters and Aliens.
The book is written from the perspective of Lewis at 7 years old and her struggles with understanding the awful injustice of black people in America. Lewis recalls when her cousin was gunned down by police.
He was literally walking away in the middle of the street in his underwear. No weapon, but because he was defiant and not paying attention, he was shot in the back. And so listening to that as a young child, I think I internalized those things. And I was like, we had just had a lesson on the Statue of Liberty. And my teacher said something about liberty is like the freedom to live and the freedom to choose. And I was like, well, then killing cousin Carl wasn't liberty.
With photos of Lewis's childhood sealed on the cover, she hopes her book continues the conversation about why all types of representation is necessary.
I'm just saying that representation makes a kid say that there are endless possibilities.
I am smart.
I am smart.
I am special.
I am special.
The 67-year-old gunman worked here at Mountain Mushroom Farm. This is one of the 2 locations where he carried out his massacre, killing and shooting 7 people. You can take a look behind me. It's still a very active scene here. Sheriff deputies are blocking off the entrance. Crime scene tape is still up as this investigation is still ongoing. We are learning this morning that this may be a case of workplace violence.
My first thoughts were just in shock and disbelief that it was happening again so close to home.
The oceanside town of Half Moon Bay, now another on the list of cities impacted by mass shootings in California and across the country, after a 67-year-old gunman shot and killed 7 farm workers.
It could be someone we know, some of the people that we know. it's a small town.
Sheltering in place and holding his family close, Tom Miller says he lives minutes away from the shooting.
We live down the road on Highway 1. We live in a trailer parked for senior citizens. We're about a 10-minute walk from where the shootings occurred.
Seeing the photo of the gunman, Miller immediately recalls a possible encounter with him.
I saw a picture of him. I'm not certain, but I think I may have seen him just the other day at the Safeway market.
With coffee and food in hand for victims' families, Hannah Huckabee describes the town's heartbreak.
It's just heavy. It's really sad. Half Moon Bay, I don't know our exact population. I think it's like 13,000. It feels small, and it feels like your hometown, so it's kind of shattering. I'm just sad.
Being hit hard by the storms of the new year, Huckabee says the community was just beginning to recover.
Half Moon Bay really has been through a lot with all the storms lately, and roads getting cut off, and just a really high stress level, but it seems to have brought the community even closer, and I felt like we were kind of on the other side of the storms and starting to rebuild, and then this happened.